Is AMD becoming a threat to Nvidia? After the company reported its last earnings, it did mention a lot of new things like new customers and even more training demand coming for their AI chips. On today's episode, as both an AMD and Nvidia shareholder, I'm going to share my overall thoughts and seeing if am I worried about my Nvidia position? Too long, don't watch. The answer is no. But I do believe AMD stock can definitely benefit from this influx of AI demand and this strong push of various AI solutions that are coming for the MI350 and the MI400. I do believe Nvidia investors are also going to get a lot of information from this video, so let's get started.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so we can see it is the day after AMD reported earnings, and unfortunately, the stock is down roughly 1%. Now, I'm actually surprised it's holding up most of the gains. I mean, in the past month or so, the stock is up about 17%, and normally the stock kind of craters after earnings. Now, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is the data center market, and that's pretty much where this topic is going to be discussed. It is going to mainly focus on, and I just think it's so crazy how the AI revolution has kind of created a massive leader. So here I'm looking at three popular semiconductor companies that used to provide a lot of solutions in the AI space. We can see kind of Nvidia, Intel, and AMD. Now we can see at one time in the past, Intel was the dominant leader here in the kind of data center space. They were producing so much more revenue in data center market than any other player until kind of 2020, quarter one of 2023. We started to see kind of Nvidia, which is the purple, really take the lead, and then after it took the lead, that lead is enormous. Now AMD has definitely seen a nice growth, right? 3.7, where just in 2021 it was doing about 0.6 billion dollars, so huge growth there, but nothing is as crazy as Nvidia. And this chart just showcases how ahead of the market Nvidia is. Now, Nvidia, for example, sequentially, since we can see quarter four of 2022, sequentially data center revenue has gone up. That hasn't been the case for the other players, right? We do know for AMD, there are quarters like this where you kind of have some flat line. You might have some quarters where you're actually down sequentially. And this is the true difference between a true AI story and a company that's just kind of getting started in the AI story. A true AI company like Nvidia showcases that sequential growth, and I do believe we're going to continue to see that even with some of the Chinese pressure. Now, what I want to do is look at how AMD can actually start that AI story. And I think that AI story is going to be starting for AMD pretty soon. Like I mentioned, right now, AMD has seen strong growth, but there's still quarters of sequential drops or quarters of kind of flat year over year sequentially. And eventually, I think we're maybe not to this value, but to this trend, we are going to see it where AMD continues to grow on the data center market. Now, there are a few questions that were asked during the Q&A session for AMD. And one of the first one was, is the total addressable market different now after China restrictions? And for those that are not familiar, right, we do know that the United States added a little bit more export restrictions to China, which caused both Nvidia and AMD to kind of write off some equipment and some inventory. And has this changed the total addressable market that Lisa Su and their team has mentioned of about $500 billion by 2028. And Lisa Su mentions that they've always kind of expected some form of limitations of leading edge GPUs going into China. So that was already factored into their total addressable market expectation. So she doesn't think that this dramatically changes the total addressable market. And I do think that it's actually very bullish, right? Because it does showcase that there is just so much demand out here that in most of these projections, and $500 billion is going to be insane, the total addressable market by 2028. And NVIDIA can easily grab a big market share of that. It just showcases that even without China, top players in this space and players that are doing the research to determine how much they need to spend or how much they need to invest continue to see massive, massive strength ahead. So I think that was actually very bullish for the overall AI space for both NVIDIA and AMD. Now, what I think got a little bit maybe tricky for AMD and maybe for AMD investors, and let me kind of just pull this in so we can see everything. AMD actually gave some great information and color of what they're seeing their customers. So right now they mentioned that they did see overall good demand in the first quarter driven by the MI325s. So they have seen significant adoption by our large foundational model company, which was very positive there. Now, this one's pretty interesting. I wonder what foundational model company is kind of seeing a nice pickup of AMD chips. There are 3 players in this list, and maybe let me know in the comments below if maybe we should add another. But the 3 that actually there's 2. The 2 that I'm thinking of is first Meta Platforms. So Meta Platforms, you could say, with their Llama solution, is a large foundational model company. The second one is OpenAI. I'm actually leaning more that this might be OpenAI. The reason being is we do know that OpenAI has a strong partnership with both Microsoft and Oracle in forms of the infrastructure, and both Microsoft and Oracle are buyers of AMD's MI300 series. So if there are seeing some strong adoption, I'm gonna guess it's maybe by OpenAI, but we probably won't get the real answer until the AI event. But I do believe if it is OpenAI, that can be seen as a massive bullish case. Obviously, we know OpenAI is already kind of using the MI300. They talked about it, but here they talk about some significant adoption and using it for a lot of other solutions. So that's gonna be one that I'm gonna be excited to hear. Hopefully, it's not like some small player like Mistral or whoever else out there. I think it's gonna be one of those large players. Now, here talking about the AI space, Lisa Su also mentions that several hyperscalers expanded their use of Instinct accelerators to cover an increasing range of generative AI research, search, ranking, and recommendation use cases. They've also added multiple tier 1 cloud and enterprise customers in the quarter, including one of the largest frontier model developers that is using Instinct GPUs to serve a significant portion of their daily inference traffic. So again, now the more I think about it, I do believe this large frontier model is most likely going to be an open AI solution. But I thought it was crazy that they mentioned that they've added multiple tier 1 cloud and enterprise customers in the quarter. There's not too many tier 1 cloud players. So again, it has got me a little bit hyped for that AI event because it does mention that they're winning some customers over. Not only that, they mentioned that training engagements also ramped in the quarter as multiple tier 1 hyperscales, AI, and enterprise customers scaled Instinct GPU clusters to train internal and frontier models. So again, I do believe we are coming to that story where AMD's data center revenue is going to leave Intel. And again, I don't think it's going to get to the level of Nvidia, but the trend of a sequential growth for multiple quarters is going to be there. So that's actually pretty exciting for AMD. Now, there are some MI350 updates, right? The MI350 is the one that's expected to come out in the second half of this year, and that's what this June AI event is gonna pretty much discuss. So Lisa Su kind of talks that she's very excited about the MI350 launch, and we're right on track for the launching mid-year. I would say customer interest has been very high. You know, Lisa Su is usually a person that doesn't try to hype a product up, but I don't know. Recently, what she has been saying has me pretty hyped. And they believe that, again, they started the sampling of the MI350 with multiple customers in the first quarter, and they are seeing some great traction. Customer interest in the MI350 series is very strong, setting the stage for broad deployment in the second half of the year. As one example, they are partnering with Oracle to deploy a large-scale cluster powered by MI355X accelerators, 5th generation EPYC Twin processors, and their Polaroid 400 AI networking interface cards. This multi-billion-dollar initiative highlights the expanding AMD and Oracle cloud infrastructure partnership and the growing demand for AMD instincts to power the next wave of large-scale AI infrastructure. So if we do see some great results from this Oracle massive supercluster, then I do believe that can be a massive tailwind for AMD in the long term. I think maybe some cloud infrastructure players are willing to see how other players play with these AI GPUs, and if they play nice, those other ones are also gonna take the chance with the MI350. So again, I keep feeling like the AI story is coming pretty quickly for AMD, and the market just doesn't see it, and I don't know why. Now, the China market was obviously a very important topic, and this is something that I think Nvidia investors are also going to want to pay attention to, because both AMD and Nvidia got hit with these export restrictions. What is this going to do with things like gross margins? What is this going to do with forms of revenue hit? So Gene, the CFO of AMD, mentions that the MI308 gross margins are on the low end of their data center GPU margin, because obviously you're selling a weaker chip and there's probably more competition. So because of that reason, your margins are probably a lot lower due to the competition. I'm going to guess the similar results are for Nvidia. So in theory, losing out the China market with the weaker down version of the H20, it's actually gross profit accretive, right? It is a reason why after maybe these charges, you will see some growth in the gross profits. Now, obviously, the situation would be different if you were able to send the best chip, then the margins would probably be a lot much higher. Now, for AMD, most of the revenues coming in from the AI market is actually the MI325 and the MI300, not too much coming in from China. Lisa Su also believes that for quarter 3 and quarter 4 of this year, they do expect they expect strong year-over-year growth in forms of the AI GPUs. So while this is great news for AMD, I do believe it just showcases that there's still so much demand in the AI space and could actually be seen as a very bullish sentiment for Nvidia as well. So I think, like I mentioned, I don't think Nvidia investors have anything to worry about right now. Actually, the stock turned green right now. Let's see how AMD is doing. AMD is not green yet, but it does show that the AI appetite is still pretty strong. And I do believe for AMD investors, again, I don't think the number is going to happen like it did for Nvidia, but the trend is going to be the same. Where now you're going to start, especially after quarter 2, if there is no hiccups with the MI350, with the MI400, and whatever else, you're going to see a nice sequential growth for multiple quarters. And I think right now AMD is definitely one that's pretty attractive. I'm just curious here to kind of see what is AMD's PE ratio at the moment. I'm going to guess it's pretty low compared to some of the other players. Obviously, on a short-term basis, in 2012 months, you still are getting hit by certain uncertainties, the acquisition of Xilinx, the over inventory issue of about a year ago. But on the forward, which is the end of this fiscal year, remember, we just finished quarter 1 and we're starting quarter 2. So less than 3 quarters from now is sitting at 22. I personally believe that's pretty cheap. PE ratio for 1 year is in the 16s. I can definitely see why investors would be bullish on this company. And there are some results from the earnings call that can give us some nice positive traction for the AI market. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.